Oh, excellent intro music. Hour number 2, Overdrive. Jim, Tatti, Frankie, Corrado, and Dave Feschuk from the Toronto Stars subbing. And Fess, you and I will be back again tomorrow to close off the week. Tomorrow's the Destroy the Show day. That's our annual Destroy the Show. Yeah, just me and you.
That's right. What do you destroy about it?
We just tear it apart.
That's right. Well,
it's mailed in Friday. I mean, that's when you really go. Yeah,
man, they let us. I mean, they put us in front of the microphones. What else can we do?
Yeah.
Yes, guy.
Yeah, there you go. And they keep asking us to do it like every year so they can rebuild it, right?
Oh yeah.
Doogie, after we leave, he's just like he's got the wall board out, the plaster. He has a lot of
when
repair
is
work.
Hayes coming back?
Yeah,
you know, Hayes back.
You know what he
here.
looks like? You ever see that meme of Ben Affleck and he's smoking a cigarette outside and he looks so stressed? That's what Doogie looks like after a show with us three.
I actually saw a different stress level in him today because this is 4 days in a row I'm working with him. And when he did the Leaf games with us, it was a little more sporadic, right? So it wasn't like 4 days in a row.
Yeah, he gets some recovery time.
Right.
Yeah. He needed that.
It's a lot of tap man all at once. It's a lot of tap man all at once.
You can be a lot.
No,
in a good way.
Just pushing forward, my friend. That's all I can do.
We're less than 30 minutes away from everyone's favorite segment.
Yes guy, no guy.
That's right.
Bottom of the hour.
Yeah.
Can't wait.
It's timeless.
It'll be
really.
fully authorized.
It's absolutely fully authorized. Everybody signed off on it. The timeless sports broadcasting game.
Yeah.
Yes guy, no guy.
Yeah.
And Doogie has prepared. I get lazy on Overdrive because I've spent the day clearing the legal way for it to be used. Doogie does the question.
So you didn't play this morning on your show?
Oh yes, twice.
Oh, you did
Twice. Yeah.
You did. Oh, so you did. Yes guy, no guy twice already today.
At the end of every
You're
hour.
gonna do a hat trick of yes guy, no guy today.
You could put it that way. Yeah.
I might need to get you like a Gatorade or something. Get some electrolytes in you.
Yeah.
Could be. I'm feeling a little light.
Yeah.
Feeling a little light.
I'm gonna go next commercial break. I'm gonna grab you a Gatorade.
But appreciate that.
Yeah.
Very kind of you.
Yeah. I
And
think
Dave will go down and pick up some pizza, and we're all set.
Yeah. Then we'll be all right.
Yeah.
Are the Jays all right?
So they lost 3 out of 4 in Baltimore and get the Yankees in the weekend, come home and face Baltimore at home for a series. So, I mean, this was the gauntlet of the schedule anyway. Not that they didn't have one before, but this is coming out of the trade deadline or going into the trade deadline with Baltimore, coming out against the Yankees in New York, and then back home against Baltimore. That's pretty tough stuff.
It's incredibly tough stuff. And you always wonder how teams are going to react at the deadline, after the deadline, when you sent a lot of guys that you insisted were linchpins to helping you become a contender. You said, you know what? We're trading them in. We're trading them in for prospects.
And they had no choice. Everyone knew this was the path that they had to take, and they did it. And all things considered, I would say that's a pretty good trade deadline because you moved out everyone you had to move out. You brought in some younger pieces, a couple that people are more excited about than others. But, we were talking about this a couple days ago, Dave. Do you know what the next step is? Like, everyone knew what step 1 was. Okay, great. Now you put yourself in that position. You had to clean up the mess. Now, where does it go from here? I don't think it's abundantly clear where step 2 is. And then the other thing, are a lot of people going to watch the Jays the rest of the year? Like, there's going to be some names floating onto that mound that you've never heard of.
Yeah.
And there's going to be some tough watches, like last night, a 10-4 loss.
For sure. And when you're watching, the Orioles bring up their number 1 prospect and he's bombing a grand slam on you, it's tough to stomach, right? Because to your point, Frankie, like, what's the next step? Where is the path to being a better team by spring training of 2025? Like, it just doesn't seem like it exists. Like, it's forested and you're going to hack it out with a machete, and it's going to take you a lot longer than a few months.
Yeah.
It just doesn't seem like instant contender stuff.
No, it doesn't feel like instant contender. I guess the one good story that you point to is Vladdy. Like, that's a really good season that he's putting together.
But he's supposed to be good.
He is supposed to be good, exactly. And I think the bar may have lowered a little bit the last couple of years. Like, he comes off a unbelievable season in 2021, I think it was, and then 2 seasons where you're like, okay, how come he's not back to that level?
Right.
How does he get back to that level? And then this year, I think he's crawling his way back up. It's not exactly MVP, but it's still very, very good. And especially the last little while, it's been exceptional. So there's your one good story. Other than that,
but that's supposed to be a given, Frank.
Right.
That shouldn't be the revelation. the revelation shouldn't be that your best player is your best player. The revelation should be that you're supposed to get this so-called internal improvement,
right,
which you never got from so many other guys on the roster. In fact, you got a lot of internal regression, Bo Bichette being case number one.
Okay, let's get another opinion on this. Let's bring in Cody Decker, host of the Beetle and Decker show on SiriusXM MLB Network, and also Fox Sports analyst as well, is where Cody does a lot of his work. Cody, he's joining us on the Maple Toyota Hotline. Cody, welcome. How are you today, sir?
Oh, living a weird Twilight Zone version of the dream. How you guys?
Well, sort of the same. Yeah, we're at that point with the Blue Jays where we passed the trade deadline, and we have sort of put what they did on a shelf, and then the next question is what's next. How do you perceive, like, when you look at what the Jays have done and what they have to do, can it happen?
Yes, it can happen, but, I'd be disappointed with the trade deadline like you guys probably are. Obviously, the Blue Jays were a massive disappointment this year. I remember coming on to your show early on in the season wondering when the early skid was going to turn around. It simply did not. There's nothing else you could say other than it's not a talentless roster. Ross Atkins did a good job putting this roster together, and unfortunately, everyone played bad. Kevin Gausman is a phenomenal pitcher. He's got a 4.44 ERA. Kikuchi, quite frankly, despite his high strikeouts, I mean, I can't believe the haul that you guys actually got for him from the Astros. That was a pure panic move, and honestly, that is the move that kept Crochet in Chicago. That's the move that kept Skubal in Detroit. The pitching market was so outrageous because, quite frankly, Kikuchi brought in 3 pretty good prospects. But outside of that, what were you going to get for Springer, who's hitting the Mendoza line? What can you possibly get for Dalton Varsho, who's hitting under the Mendoza line? Unfortunately, it's just a bad year. And quite frankly, I don't know what heads are going to roll, but I have to assume John Schneider is on the hot seat.
Yeah, and I think Ross Atkins would be on the hot seat as well. And that's probably where I think a lot of the Jays fans' frustrations would go. And, I think one of the sentiments here is that you had to be sellers and then simultaneously turn yourself into a buyer and buy the right pieces and spend the right money. Like, how possible is that for the Jays to do in one year or one offseason to turn themselves back into playoff contenders?
Possible, because at the end of the day, money does have a tendency to solve things in Major League Baseball, and the Blue Jays are not short on money. But the question is, who's going to be dictating from the top down? I honestly think John Schneider will not be the manager of this team next year. Now, I might be proven wrong. I don't have an issue with John Schneider and the work that he's done. Unfortunately, it just hasn't led to the success that, quite frankly, what this team on paper should be giving you. On paper, this should be maybe the second or third best team in this division. They just simply are not, based on how they're playing. What's going to be available this offseason? I truly do not know. I did not think for one second this last offseason that Ohtani coming to Toronto was even a possibility. If anything, it was just a nice ploy to get him his pay raised up a little bit more with Los Angeles. He was going to be a Dodger from the get-go, and everybody knew it. Quite frankly, I think it's going to be interesting what the manager search would be like if John Schneider's not available. I think Skip Schumacher would be the very first phone call, and quite frankly, should be the only phone call for anybody that's looking for a manager next season. As for Ross Atkins, I do think he's going to be on the hot seat, but listen, I'm looking at the team on paper. Anyone that looks at this team on paper can absolutely say he did a decent job constructing this team. Again, Kevin Gausman is a finalist for a Cy Young every single year. He actually did get something back for Kikuchi, which, quite frankly, I would have given nothing to get Kikuchi. I'm blown away that they got those 3 prospects. George Springer, is he going to have a return to form? I simply do not know what this team's going to look like. I'm glad they were able to move on from Justin Turner and get something for him, but at the end of the day, this team needs to make some sincere moves, and quite frankly, it needs another voice from the top. Whether that's Ross Atkins or if that's John Schneider, we'll find out.
Well, Cody, I'm interested. And you've been a player. You've been in dugouts. There's a lot of people in town that probably see it a little bit different than you. I think there's people that see the management, the upper management, from Mark Shapiro to Ross Atkins, as the problem. But if you were going the different direction, if you're saying let's go to the dugout manager, let's go to John Schneider, let's relieve him of his duties at the end of this season, what do you think you can actually get out of that? What's the palpable result of changing that manager?
That's actually a great question. It kind of is a case-by-case scenario. Like, take someone like the Mets 2 years ago when they brought in Buck Showalter. That was a jolt of lightning that team simply didn't have. And look how long that jolt of lightning lasted, all of one season, because the Mets became an absolute dumpster fire the next year. It's a combination. It just depends on finding the right guy, whether it's the pedigree of someone like, I don't know, throw a name out there. A pedigree love of Buck Showalter, or somebody that's young, that's more recently out of the game, like a Skip Schumacher. Skip Schumacher last year was what manager of the year over there with Miami, and he took them to the playoffs. This year, that team did everything they could to hand Skip Schumacher a dreadful baseball team. So that's a guy that's not far out of baseball. He's a guy that everybody wants as a front office guy, if not their manager. It's someone that can relate to the players, because quite frankly, I do think it's going to be John Schneider, and I don't necessarily blame John Schneider, because at the end of the day, look at the players that you do have. You have George Springer. You had Vladimir Guerrero, who is having a very good year. You have Bo Bichette. You have very good players. They're just not playing well, and I don't think that's Ross Atkins' fault particularly.
Was it a bad fit for John Schneider and the way this team was constructed? And what I mean by that is, when Montoyo got fired and Schneider came in, a lot of the talk was this is going to be a much more aggressive team. But then when the front office made their moves, it went from, high-powered offense to this run prevention type team. Like, it doesn't feel like those two things jived at the same time. Like, is that an issue that you see with Schneider and how things were run?
Can be. I appreciated his kind of aggressive approach. I even liked his in-your-face attitude. It gave me a little bit of John Gibbons back in the old days. And I'm talking about round 1 of John Gibbons, not round 2 where he was that serene, different man. I'm talking the one that punching his players in the dugout, that John Gibbons. Listen, it kind of goes along the lines of that jolt of lightning that I just mentioned. The moment he took over from Montoya, all of a sudden, this team started playing to their capability. But how long can that actually last? It's just a matter of what type of team do you want to be. Look at this team on paper. You got Vladimir Guerrero Jr., you got George Springer. So that tells me that this is a team that loves the long ball. They're not hitting the long ball. So if you're a team that lives and dies by the long ball, just ask a team like the Phillies how that works out in the playoffs, because the Phillies on paper are arguably offensively the best team in baseball. But once they stop hitting, they become a bad team real quick.
Seems like when we're talking about the Jays, we always go back to Bichette and Vlad. And Vlad, he's done a nice job. He's come out of whatever he was in. Bichette hasn't. When you watch these guys, I mean, why is there a dip? Are they protected in the batting order? Or, what is the solution there?
Could be a combination of a few things. It could be, I'll give you examples. Like every front office has an R&D department, and they sink a lot of money in those R&D departments. No, it could be a combination of there's too much information being handed to the players that's not being filtered and digestible for said player. Trust me, the amount of information that's available for the players is outrageous. But let me be very frank. I know maybe 7 smart baseball players. So you can't give them that much information. You basically got to make it as simple as humanly possible. And it takes a very special type of coach. It takes a very special type of R&D department to be able to pull off such a feat. Trust me, it is hard already to hit. Now you give all kinds of information. Trust me, it's analysis by paralysis at its very truest form. I think Bo Bichette's got a very bright future. I'm not sure what information he's getting. I'm not sure what stats he's looking at. I'm not sure if it's just simply that major league pitchers have figured him out. I'd like to believe it's not the latter. So I think we're going to get a bounce back year from Bo Bichette, and hopefully he's going to be in Toronto for years to come along with Vlad.
Okay, Cody, let's switch gears here. Let's talk about that real American game, not this pastime, but America's game. It's night 1 of the NFL preseason.
Oh,
there you go. Night 1 of the NFL preseason. I mean, and yet, we're hearing that it's, Caleb Williams probably won't play tonight. What's your level of excitement for the NFL preseason when we've reached this point in the NFL's trajectory where almost nobody plays in it?
Get rid of the NFL preseason. It is a waste of all of our time. We learn nothing. We gain nothing. No one gains anything. How interested in tonight's game? I'd rather sit down and stare at my wall as the paint slowly dries than watch the 5th string guys a week before actual preseason even begins. Keep in mind, this is just the Hall of Fame game. Preseason doesn't start for another 8 days. So on the echelon of preseason games that don't matter, this is on a very specific planet of don't matter.
Well, I think there's going to be some reps that matter for the quarterbacks that are vying for the number one job for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And Russell Wilson, Justin Fields, two very different quarterbacks. I mean, maybe stylistically somewhat similar, but at different stages in their career. If you're trying to think about how that plays out, like who gets the ball in Pittsburgh and for how long do they get that ball before the next guy takes it?
I am so glad I'm not in Mike Tomlin's shoes, because this is, quite frankly, the $10 million question. I'm actually a big Justin Fields fan, and I understand people that are not big Justin Fields fans. I personally think that the Bears very much failed Justin Fields during his tenure over there, and I don't think we've actually seen a semblance of what Justin Fields is really capable of. On the flip side, Russell Wilson, as much as everyone wants to talk about how weird he is, and he is, and how unapproachable he seems, and he is, and how much he annoys everybody, and he does, Russell Wilson had actually a pretty damn good football season last year, and everyone seems to want to ignore the numbers that he actually did put up while also being benched several games with the numbers that he put up. It's a problem that, quite frankly, I think the only coach in the NFL can fix is Mike Tomlin, because Mike Tomlin is the one man that simply has never had a losing record. But if I was Mike Tomlin, Justin Fields is my quarterback, and Justin Fields might be my quarterback for the next 4 to 5 years.
As we sort of dip our toe into this NFL season, Cody, I mean, I'm sort of thinking back to last year when there were so many times when people counted out the Kansas City Chiefs, right? How many times were they underdogs, and how many times were people saying, wow, they don't have it this year? And yet they're back-to-back Super Bowl champions. They've, won the AFC, 4 of the last 5 years. Where's your level of sort of certainty or lack thereof that they can make it a three-peat and sort of build this dynasty a la the latter-day New England?
Let me say this really quickly as a card-carrying, lifelong Raider fan. It's a nightmare. They're going to win the third Super Bowl. The Raiders will be on the outside looking in, and this is just what it is. It sucks. I don't know what to tell you. All of you betting against them, like they've lost it. They only got Patrick Mahomes. It's all they need. It's a nightmare.
Well said. Aaron Rodgers, what are your expectations there? Can it happen again?
He's going to lose his second Achilles. That's what I think is going to happen. Listen, I don't comprehend everything that he's saying. I don't know why he's going out there yesterday and claiming that it's news to him that he's not going to play in the preseason. This guy played 2 series of the preseason last year. I simply don't comprehend. The guy's 40. He's coming off an Achilles injury. He has not played an actual NFL football game in 2 years. I think the expectation that everyone's putting on Aaron Rodgers is unrealistic. I don't understand. I'm in New York City right now, and the palpable people just yelling about how they're going to win a Super Bowl as if it's not the New York Jets. Guys, what are we doing? The Jets are not going to the Super Bowl. They're not going to the playoffs. Aaron Rodgers will be injured by week 3. Do I hope it happens? Yes, I do.
It'll be entertaining. And you know what? The Jets have a certain, there's just a certain odor that follows the Jets and everything that happens with them. And I guess another one of those teams, maybe to a lesser extent, that has a certain odor or a certain something that follows them is the Chargers. Just a flaky team, can't really finish. And you just know the Chargers, when push comes to shove, will find a way to lose. Does Jim Harbaugh change that?
I honestly think yes, but here's the thing. I'm not looking at Jim Harbaugh right now. Finally, it's taken everybody a few years. Everyone's starting to look at one guy, and his name's Justin Herbert all of a sudden. Because here's the thing. As much as I'd like to make fun of Aaron Rodgers, and I do, and I will continue to do so, one thing I can't say about Aaron Rodgers is he's one of the very best people of the throwing of the football that's ever existed. Justin Herbert, of the echelon of current NFL players, is one of the best passers in the game. He's got one of the most beautiful arms in the game. But like you said, doesn't win in big moments. Famously lost maybe the most embarrassing playoff loss ever over to Trevor Lawrence and the Jaguars just 2 years ago. If Harbaugh is the guy to break this streak, he's got his work cut out for him. But quite frankly, I feel like Justin Herbert, even though he's on a huge contract, he might be on his last chance going here in these Harbaugh years.
Well, it's interesting you say that, Cody, because news came out today that he may have hurt his foot, a plantar fascia injury. A little bit of a question mark about whether he'll be ready for week 1. Since we're talking quarterbacks, down a little highway called the QEW here, Cody, from Toronto, we have a team called the Buffalo Bills. And they've got a quarterback that has all the talent in the world and and a cannon of an arm, but also I think has led the NFL in interceptions over the last 5 years. Is there a reasonable expectation that Josh Allen can take a step eventually and overcome his, errors in judgment to lead the Buffalo Bills somewhere beyond where they've been of late?
I firmly believe yes. I firmly believe he is that good. And I hear what you're saying about the turnovers. Yes, they are glaring. But he also throws more touchdowns than any other QB in the game, and it's just fascinating. And quite frankly, I get it, Bills fans. You've never won a title. You famously lost 4 in a row. I can only imagine what that's like as a fan and waiting to get over this hump, especially having to deal with all those Patriot years. I truly, truly, truly do get it. But let me put it this way. As a Raider fan, if you don't want him, I'll take him.
Does he have enough around him this year? Like, Diggs is gone. Like, is he... Because that's the thing with I find with Allen. If the run game hasn't been up to par, so he feels like he has to do a lot of that. Is there enough to kind of insulate him so it feels like he doesn't have to do too much, which leads to those interceptions and lapses in judgment?
I freely admit it scares me on paper completely. It does. Losing out on a guy like Diggs is a devastating situation. But here's the thing: if he is the player that a lot of people say he is, and a lot of people believe he is, then he's got to do the Patrick Mahomes thing, quite frankly, and he does got to put this team on his back. He is that talented to put this team on his back. And quite frankly, Patrick Mahomes, name a receiver these last 2 years that he's had that has moved the needle ever in the NFL.
He's got a tight end. That's he's got a very elite tight end, and does Josh Allen have a very elite tight end like that?
Nope. No one does. That's
right?
The problem. Can he do it? Yes. Will he do it? At the end of the day, man, it's the AFC. The AFC is a juggernaut among juggernauts. I mean, just look throughout the entire AFC. Everybody in this league is making $50 million just to throw the football this season alone. It's a tough task to get this guy to get over the hump simply because of what the competition is. And unfortunately for him and everybody else, that guy named Patrick Mahomes happens to be playing in this generation. It's just Tom Brady 2.0, only it might be worse for all of us.
Cody, you're with the Raiders. I'm a lifelong Lions fan, and I've got the scars to prove it. What do they do for an encore? Oh, no.
That's how he got all gray, Cody. I don't know if you can see him.
I'm going to say it now.
Okay.
And I really know at some point I'm going to regret it, and I'm going to allow anyone here to bash me over the head of this when I'm wrong. I hope I'm not. Detroit Lions are going to the Super Bowl this year.
Oh, no.
Yes, guy.
Oh, yeah.
Bring it.
Oh, yeah.
Taddy's got a windbreaker from 1984. He's going to break out if they go to the Super Bowl.
Oh, this is fantastic. Absolutely.
They're my pick. They're my NFC pick, man.
Oh,
it's going to be them or the 49ers. And quite frankly, 49ers are in a unique situation with the whole Brandon Ayuk thing. It's not like they don't have talent all over the field, but for me, it's the 49ers or it's the Lions. And man, there's a good feeling going on over there in Detroit. There just is. I'm digging this team, and I really want to see it. I agree. My heart might be talking a little bit more than my brain, but I don't care. I'm going to let my heart talk. Let's go, Lions.
You just talked about the Jets, and we talked about the Chargers, and we talked about teams that just have that odor that comes with it. Like the Lions, even though there's a lot to be optimistic about, they still have that. And I think one of the issues to do with that is the fact that Green Bay, goes from one quarterback to the other, and now it's Jordan Love. And it's like, you didn't get the reprieve. You didn't get the down years that you could take advantage of because now Jordan Love is an elite quarterback in the NFL, and he's in your way.
You are right, but you can make the argument, man. Jared Goff is also of that elite status.
Yes, absolutely.
Of a Jordan
Jared
Love.
Goff.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, man.
Yeah.
I'm legitimately, of the 3 odors we're discussing, this one smells the best.
Oh, boy. Wow, this is a highlight.
All right. Okay, Cody, so you're a New York guy. We've been talking a lot of football. There's plenty of time to talk football. Back to baseball. The Yankees are hot. Are the Yankees for real?
Yes, they are, but I do have a very sincere problem with how hot they are at the moment. Because every Yankee fan over here, Yankee fans are the most delusional bunches of people that you could ever meet in your life. And it's either you win a World Series or you're the worst team in the world. Insane type of thought processes by any fandom. But at the end of the day, Man, they're good. Jazz brought up a lot of energy, and now you got Giancarlo Stanton. You're going to get Anthony Rizzo back. And keep in mind, listen, I've known Garrett Cole since he was 16 years old. We played together at UCLA. I'm the biggest Garrett Cole fan in the world. People need to realize this thing about Garrett Cole. He's missed out on all of spring training, and if you really look at how much he's been pitching as of late, he's practically going into his final spring training start in his next start. Give him another month or two and he ramps up for the World Series or the playoffs. This is going to be a very, very dangerous team. But I do want to caution Yankee fans. You don't want to win the AL East. You don't want to do it. You want the Orioles to win the AL East because I do not trust this Yankee offense with a 5-day off bye. That bye is a punishment for the best teams in Major League Baseball.
One more before we let you go. Mike Trout, another torn meniscus, gone for the season. Is this the end?
It's not the end, but we don't deserve to have good things. That's all I've learned about the Mike Trout saga. The fact that he has been stuck in Anaheim and that he's been willing to stick it out in Anaheim is just the most heartbreaking thing in the world to me because we have been robbed of the single best baseball player of our generation. We truly, truly have. And I blame you, Artie Moreno. You didn't cause the meniscus tear, but I still blame you.
Cody, thanks very much. And, boy, you're number one on my list now with the Lions prediction.
Oh, go Lions.
Way to go. Yeah.
Go Lions. Home improvement style 96. Let's go Lions.
Oh, this is
Windbreakers
fantastic.
coming out.
Oh, yeah. I'm wearing it tomorrow. Are you kidding? We got to hop on this.
All right.
Oh, wow. What will we do? That's fantastic.
The bold prediction.
So I've got two things that'll mic drop my career. Lions winning the Super Bowl and the Leafs winning the Cup.
Wouldn't you like to see both before you retire?
Oh, I won't retire until it happens.
Really?
Oh, yeah, I'm going until it happens.
Wow.
Yeah. You got a lot of good years left.
Oh,
you're sharp.
I'm just starting.
You're sharp as a tack.
I'm just starting, guy. Are you kidding? The rest of this was a warm-up.
Yeah. Stress-free life.
Absolutely. Cody Decker joined us in the Maple Toyota hotline. Check out Maple Toyota's huge truck and SUV lineup, including Tundra, 4Runner, Highlander, Grand Highlander, all in stock and ready to deliver. Visit mapletoyota.com. Up next, the highly anticipated, and I don't know how we can top what just happened, but we will. Yes Guy, No Guy on Overdrive on TSN2, TSN 1050, the iHeartRadio app, and wherever you find a podcast, and also streaming online. Oh, Yes Guy, that's a ripper. Well, listen to that guitar. That's a ripper. Welcome back to Overdrive. Jim Tatti, Frankie C., and Dave Feschuk from the Toronto Star subbing for the usual regulars who are spending a lot of time off this summer and well-deserved. ACB will be back in the chair on Monday. Time now, ladies and gentlemen, for this.
Yes Guy, No Guy.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, drivers and passengers, time now for Yes Guy on Overdrive. Does it get any better than that? I think we have to surpass the Lions getting to the Super Bowl.
I don't know how we're going to top that for you specifically.
It's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. Doogie, help us out. What do we have?
Hey, boys, here we go. Here we go. The favorite segment of the day. It's 5:30. You know what that means. It's Yes Guy, No Guy time. We saw Summer McIntosh take home her second Olympic gold, winning in the 200-meter butterfly in Paris today. So Yes Guy, No Guy, Summer McIntosh has been your story of the Olympics so far.
Ooh. 100% Yes Guy. 17 years old. She had a dominant performance with her first gold medal. She's won a second gold medal, and she's doing it against some highly decorated swimmers. That is the most positive story so far, and for me, that's the headline story for Canada at the Olympics.
Guy.
Oh,
yeah, I'm a Yes Guy. It is the best good news story of the Canadian Olympic run here because it's the first double gold medalist we've had since Donovan Bailey in 1996. Think about that.
Wow.
Which is incredible. She also throws in a silver in what was the race of the swim meet, the heavyweight race in opening day. But it's not the story of the Olympics. The story of the Olympics is DroneGate. I mean, this is an international story. This goes beyond sport. It's on headlines around the world. And if Canada happens to win a medal in women's soccer, there'll be a lot of people happy for that team. Be a lot of people, pointing out that the players showed incredible resilience and grit. There's also going to be a lot of people around the world saying, look at those cheaters from Canada. How can they get a medal?
You came up with the line of the century yesterday, keeping up with the drones.
The Droneses.
The Droneses, yeah.
Yes,
I didn't want to actually say it properly because then I'd be stealing it. I don't
legal.
do that
yeah,
stuff.
you know all about
I don't
stealing.
I don't do that stuff. So, Doogie, give me the question again, just because I want to hear the wording.
So Summer McIntosh is the story of Paris 2024 so far.
Oh, you mean in terms of everybody or just the Canadian angle?
Probably the Canadian angle. Let's stick with the Canadians.
Not probably. Yes or no?
Let's stick with the Canadians here.
Okay. It's yes guy or no guy.
Come on, dude. You figure it out.
I'm gonna say as we speak right now, yes guy. And I would assume that it could be if the story continues, and I don't have a schedule in front of me to understand just how many gold medals that she can win. But the soccer story is looming, and maybe the men's basketball story too. Maybe.
Oh, that's got a chance.
Yeah, maybe.
That could overshadow it all.
And if it's a dead heat with three big stories, nobody's going to complain.
Well, speaking of the Canadians men's basketball team, tomorrow morning, 11:15 a.m. on TSN Radio, Canada, Spain, looking to go undefeated in this tournament. So yes guy, no guy, Canada competes with the U.S. roster.
Oh, I'm going to say yes, guy, for different reasons. I just think that, the American roster has some tweaking to do in that people have to learn how to play different roles. The Canadian roster is actually built for this. I mean, everybody understands what they're supposed to do, and they do it. It's well coached, executes a great game plan, get better by the game. Absolutely yes, guy to that.
Well, I'm a no guy on the question at hand. Like the roster to roster on paper, nobody compares to the U.S. roster. I mean, this is an incredible conglomeration of future Hall of Famers, all-time greats. You've got the best shooter in the history of the sport. You've got a guy in Steph Curry. You got a guy in LeBron who may or may not be the best player. I think Michael Jordan's still ahead of him on a lot of rankings. And then you've got Durant, who's just a flat-out best bucket getter we've ever seen.
Machine, man.
And so they're very special, and Canada doesn't have that. But to Tatti's point, that Canada has a great team, and this is a different sport than NBA basketball. FIBA basketball, can't say it enough. It's a completely different thing. We're talking about a one-game winner-take-all elimination, 40 minutes, no three in the key, and you got Joel Embiid on the American side, which I think if you're Canadian, you love seeing Joel Embiid on the American side. You're glad he didn't go play for Cameroon or France. You're glad he's got to be with the Americans because they don't know what they're going to get out of that guy.
Right.
And that's a problem for the Americans, among many problems for the Americans. So, look, Canada's got a chance, and I think they've got the best chance of anybody in that field of knocking these guys off.
That's right. I'm yes guy, and based on the fact that, everyone on this Canadian roster has played NBA games, so they have experience that way. Yes, they're not going to be able to match the high-end skill of the American players. Everyone knows that. But in the context of this tournament, you look at the other rosters, like Canada's has, probably the second best player in this tournament in Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. They've got one of the best defensive players in Dylan Brooks. They've shown a commitment to playing good defensive basketball. They've all kind of bought into their roles, and everyone has bought into having a little more of a individual sacrifice. So, yes, it's not going to be apples to apples, but in the context of the tournament, that's as close as it gets. So for those reasons, I'm yes guy.
Go ahead, sir.
Let's switch gears here to some Major League Baseball talk. Blue Jays have an off night, but start a series against the New York Yankees. The beast in the East, as I suppose. My question to all of you is the Blue Jays will be a competitive team next season and will return to World Series contention.
Oh.
No guy.
Yeah.
No guy, Doogie. Not World Series contention. Like, you can convince me, or you can try and sell me on the fact that they can compete for a wild card spot, and even for that to happen, so many things would have to go well next season. Like, you're going to have to nail this offseason. You're going to have to acquire all the targets that you set out to, spend the right money, and then, that term that everyone hates, internal improvement, you're going to have a little bit of that from players like Bo Bichette and George Springer. And, you go down the list, like there's going to have to be a lot of players that have a better year this year. So I can maybe buy that you're in contention for a wild card spot, but that is it. World Series is light years away for this team.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a no guy for me too. And I think that's the offensive thing for Blue Jay fans is that they're listening to management over at the Dome saying, yeah, we can be a contender next year. Yeah, we sold off our rentals, but we believe we can contend in 2025. And I just don't see the path. Like, you're a bad team. You got a minus 85 run differential. You're 27th in runs scored in all of Major League Baseball. You have no offense to speak of. Your pitching staff is in shambles. Your bullpen needs massive renovation, kind of like a ballpark renovation, but except that the president of the team is good at renovating ballparks and not good at renovating rosters. I just don't see how they can go from where they are right now, which is dead last in the AL East, to anywhere near contending for a World Series.
Unanimous no guy. They were asleep at the wheel in the offseason last year, and you're asking the same people to wake up and drive the bus in the right direction. No guy. Don't see it at all. Yeah, there we go.
A triple no guy.
Yeah, doesn't happen often.
That does not happen often. No. Let's see what you guys say about this one. Patrik Laine has been in the news, circulating around the NHL, and we know that a trade request out of Columbus is in the cards, and he'll probably be heading to a different team this season. So yes guy, no guy, Patrik Laine will be traded to a Canadian franchise.
It's hard to say where he's going to be traded, Doogie. I talked about this on SportsCenter the other day with Montreal. So I'll give you a yes guy, Doogie, because I feel like Montreal would be a good fit for Patrik Laine. Marty St. Louis is the X factor there. Like, I think Marty's calling card as a coach right now is going to be connecting with players, finding ways to develop them. And there's a lot of skill with Patrik Laine. And if you take a look at his points per game over the last few seasons, he's really been dragged down by injuries. And, you know, there's definitely something there that we saw when he was a younger player. If Marty St. Louis is able to work with a player like that, I think he could find it. Like, I think he could. He's done it with Nick Suzuki. He's done it with Cole Caulfield. He's done it with Juraj Slavkovsky. This would be a veteran guy. It wouldn't be a younger guy. And the time would probably be right in Montreal for a project like this. There's not high expectations on the team, and so there wouldn't be super high expectations on Laine, and he would just have to slide in and work with Marty and see if he can find it again.
See, I'm a no guy on this. I like what you just laid out there, Frankie. It's an interesting theory, but if I'm the Montreal Canadiens, I don't want to saddle my young, upcoming, good news team with a reclamation project that's 26 years old, got a ton of baggage as much as he's got a ton of skill, hasn't really lived up to the promise of that 44-goal year in his second season in Winnipeg. Never even come close to that, really. As much as we all know there was potential there, I'm not convinced there still is potential there, and I don't want sort of a sideshow to my developmental story with the Montreal Canadiens. I want Marty St. Louis' energy on the young guys I actually believe in, not an older guy I probably even don't believe in.
Yeah, I concur with what Dave said. I'm a no guy as well. I think he's a pretty good offensive hockey player. Never really developed the second half of the rink, and he's got a pretty good price tag for this year and next. So depending on the finances, Columbus would have to suck some of that up. Otherwise, not interested.
It would have to be like Columbus would have to take at least 25%.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you turn him into a $6.5 million player. Still. And then whoever is making the deal is probably sending some money that they don't want the other way. Like you have to. Yeah. Both teams will have to play ball on making the money work.
I just think it's a lot of rigmarole for a very uncertain payoff.
Well, it's kind of a offensive end of the rink. You're going to get your production, but what's coming back for defense?
Well, the problem is you might not even get the production.
Well, that's true.
You hope you'll get the production. Yeah. We know he has the skill. We've seen him do it, but it's been a long time since he's been a dependable goal scorer. And that's the problem here. If he's not dependable, why am I taking that risk?
Doogie, I hate to be picky, but I would have said Canadian franchise other than the Jets.
Yes,
I would have just put that in.
He ain't going back there.
Yeah, sorry, guy. I had to do that. Anyway, go ahead, sir.
And Dave, as you mentioned, Patrik Laine hasn't scored 30 goals in a season since the 2018-2019 season with the Winnipeg Jets, but had two 50-point seasons in Columbus and 4 seasons there. So let's see how he can kind of rebound in his career and get back on the right stage offensively. John Tavares has also been in the news in regards to the Four Nations face-off, if he may be a part of this team. So yes guy, no guy, John Tavares will play for Canada at the Four Nations face-off in 2025.
I said no guy on SportsCenter. I'm going to say no guy again. And it has to do with the other players that are going to play down the middle of the ice. It's not an indictment on Tavares. He's a very, very good player. It's just you're going to lead off with McDavid. And if you don't have McDavid playing with McKinnon's going to be your second line center. Then you're going to have Sidney Crosby. And then you're probably not going to have John Tavares as your fourth line center. You're going to go for someone who fits that role a little bit more, maybe a little more speed, maybe some physicality, maybe just a different type of guy. So it gets crowded quickly. You can maybe talk about moving him to the wing, which he has done at the Hockey Canada level and the international level, best on best. But I don't know. I feel like there's a lot of guys around this team that do certain things specifically well. That might be needed in different roles, and that might leave him on the outside looking in. I could be wrong, but it feels like it's crowded around him.
I'm a no guy. I've looked at a bunch of these projected rosters for this team, and he's just not on the depth chart. Like it's just not going to happen. I don't think. I mean, he's 33 years old. There's younger guys. There's better skaters. There's guys with more, I would say, utility.
Right. Yeah, that's a great term for it, actually. Utility.
Yeah. On both sides of the rink, on both sides of the puck. So I just, look, I mean, he's obviously done a great job representing Canada at multiple levels. He's the captain of the Toronto Maple Leafs. He's had a great career, but I just think this is a tough team to make, man. There's no shame in not making it, and I just don't think he's going to be on it.
Well, we've already had a unanimous no guy, so I'm going to go against the grain and say yes guy. As a winger in the lower part of the roster, he makes the team. Yes guy.
Can I throw in a supplemental here, Doogie? Will you allow that?
Of course.
Nick Suzuki has a better chance of making the team than John Tavares. Yes guy, no guy.
Wow.
Well, speaking of utility,
I'd have to say yes guy.
There's a guy.
Yeah,
there's a two-way guy.
I think that's like I would call him like a swing player in your lineup. If you need to put him higher, you can.
More speed.
You can trust exactly what he's going to give you. And then lower in the lineup, like that would be a very good fourth line center for that team.
Yeah.
Like he's a first line center that plays responsible in both ways.
That wasn't really a supplemental yes guy, no guy. That was a supportive for what you already said, yes guy, no guy.
Semantics, Jim.
Nonetheless, it was a supportive yes guy, no guy.
We're playing a game here.
I know.
I liked it.
Well aware. Go ahead.
Job.
Do we have one more, Doogie, or is that it?
That's about it. Just want to make a fair point. Robert Thomas could be an option. Alexis Lafreniere could be an option. Sam Reinhart. Like, there's a lot of players.
Sam Reinhart would probably be on the team, I think, after the year he just had.
I'd say so.
Yeah. Wyatt Johnston.
Yeah.
That's the guy who very good chance to be on that team.
I mean,
Zach Hyman.
Zach Hyman's on the team. Doogie, he's not on the bubble. He's on the first line.
Doogie, he's playing with McDavid.
Aggressive.
True.
Yeah, right, guy. That was aggressive.
And I think with that being said, like Ryan Nugent-Hopkins probably has a more than a better chance to be on the team, just based on the fact that he can be a utility guy as well. Like he kills penalties. You could put him with McDavid, or you can put him lower in the lineup. There's a lot of versatility there.
Yeah. And then you got to think about who's coaching it too, right? I mean, John Cooper.
Yeah.
So think about what is John Cooper like? I think he's going to go younger and faster.
Yeah.
Over veteran experience like John Tavares. That's my gut feeling.
Yeah. And we'll see. We don't have to wait that long to see, right?
Yeah.
Right around the corner.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll continue this on the next segment. Overdrive continues on TSN2, TSN 1050, the iHeartRadio app.
Leafs Radio Network.
The Leafs Radio Network, streaming online. Overdrive, wrapping up hour number 2. And I should tell you that Overdrive is brought to you by FanDuel, bringing you everything from the opening line to the final score. Some people don't like Yes Guy, and all I can say is, too bad. It's not going anywhere.
Who doesn't like it?
I don't know. Some people don't like it, and I'm just, it's not going away.
I hear people are lining up to get your Yes Guy golf shirts.
Absolutely. Will be on display or on sale by the end of August at the ultimate latest.
And just a reminder, you can listen to Yes Guy, the radio show, Thursdays and Fridays, 10 a.m. to noon on TSN 1050.
And TSN 1050 and anywhere you find a podcast because it's posted right after it airs. Tomorrow is only 10 to 11 because we've got men's basketball, Olympic men's basketball live on TSN 1050. So I've got to get out of the way, which doesn't bother me.
Okay, so this is a big moment. Is this the first batch of Yes Guy merch that we've ever seen?
Absolutely.
Wow.
Absolutely.
landmark situation.
It is a landmark situation, and I'll be wearing the said merchandise again tomorrow.
What took you so long to start making merchandise?
Well, you have to register things, and you have to get things. You have to find people you trust, and
you're a one-man show. Like you don't. You're like an NHL coach.
That's right.
NHL coaches don't trust a lot of people.
Back when the NHL coaches were coaching GM.
Right.
Right. And there were no assistants.
No, that's it. I'm Punch. Call me Punch. Right. Yeah. Yeah. No, of course you don't trust.
You got like, if you were a coach, you'd have your playbook, but you wouldn't let any of your assistant coaches see it.
Absolutely.
Like you can see what I let you see.
Yeah, because then the assistant becomes a genius and gets a job somewhere else and steals all your stuff. That never happens.
Secrets.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, close to the vest.
Right.
Me and Lou playing poker.
Yeah.
You got like a guy.
Yeah.
You got a guy watching for drones. You got to jam.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. The sky is being searched right now, and there's no drones in here. I mean,
just sweeping for bugs.
I go back to that story. I mean, that is just ridiculous that somebody tried that.
The drone thing?
Yeah, at the Olympics. I mean, come on, you're in a different country. There's like an army of police looking for, people trying to do silly and nasty things.
The no-fly zone is what really hurt them because, everyone talks about how teams do it, and lots of teams get away with it. The big mistake was that they flew the drone over a no-fly zone.
I mean, there's guys with machine guns walking around the Paris Olympics. Like, that's what I was saying.
It's an international...
the guy that was flying the drone is lucky he didn't get shot. I mean, it's so asinine.
Well, but that's what happens when you're sloppy and things get out of control, is that you end up doing something because you've just gotten away with it for so long that, guess what? Oh, you forgot it was the Olympics and people were looking for it.
Well, you know what? There's a lot of really good players in the Canadian soccer program, men's and women's. I would imagine drones won't be a part of the program moving forward. So we'll actually just see how good the players are. Like, that will be eliminated, and we'll just see how talented both sides are.
Good point, Frankie. I mean, a lot of this stuff is just coaches overthinking, right?
Coming up next, Andrew Harris, former CFL player. This is Overdrive on TSN 1050 and TSN 2.